The second impeachment trial of former President Donald Trump has finally begun. It is day one of the infamous trial, and the U.S. Senate has declared it constitutional with a 56-44 vote. Listen in.
The yeas are 56, the nays are 44, and pursuant to S. 47, the Senate having voted in the affirmative on the foregoing question, the Senate shall proceed with the trial as provided under the provisions of that resolution.
The first test was all about the constitutionality of the trial. It was Trump's lawyers versus Democrat impeachment managers. The vote came just hours after arguments, and Trump's lawyers said that the trial was not constitutional because he is out of office, while the Democrats pointed to precedent and the opinions of many legal scholars, including that of conservatives, who said that the trial is in fact valid.
But the section I read, judgment, in other words, the bad thing that can happen, the judgment, in cases of impeachment, i.e. what we are doing, shall not extend further than removal from office. What is so hard about that? Which of those words are unclear? Shall not extend further than removal from office. President Trump no longer is in office. The object of the Constitution has been achieved. He was removed by the voters.
Attorney Bruce Castor added that the real reason behind House of Representatives wanting to convict Donald Trump is because they do not wish to see him as a political rival in the future. Castor added that the storming of the Capitol should be denounced in the most vigorous terms and the rioters should be prosecuted. The defense contention reflected that a small group of criminals, and not Trump, were responsible for the violence. The impeachment managers managed to pick up one vote from Republicans, that is Bill Cassidy, Louisiana senator, who blamed the Trump's lawyer for their bad performance. A graphic video showing the former president egging a rally to march to the Capitol and, as he said, fight like hell against his re-election defeat. And images of the deadly attack on Congress that came soon after. All were showcased as the trial opened on Tuesday. The trial is expected to be fast, and each side has up to 16 hours to make their case. And a final vote on whether to convict or acquit Donald Trump could take place early next week. The timeline would make it the fastest impeachment trial for a president in American history. Earlier, we spoke to our correspondent Nick Harper. Let's listen into what he had to say.
We have never seen a US president being impeached twice. We've also never seen a former president face an impeachment trial. And that is why Donald Trump's lawyers are arguing that this entire trial is unconstitutional, that it is simply illegal to try someone who has left office. Donald Trump is now a private citizen. He lives down in Florida. He has left the office of the presidency. So his lawyers were trying to get this thrown out. And that's what we saw during Tuesday's proceedings. 4 hours of legal debate from the Democrats as the prosecutors and from Donald Trump's lawyers as the defense about the constitutionality of this whole case. And at the end of the 4 hours, there was that vote, the senators deciding whether or not they thought that the Senate had the jurisdiction to take on this trial, whether or not it was legal. They said it was. They just needed a simple majority. The Democrats have that majority in the Senate. So that vote was always going to get through before we pass on to the opening arguments, which will start later on Wednesday. But Donald Trump's lawyers will undoubtedly return to that argument when they present their case, saying that it is unconstitutional and therefore unfair and unfit to try a person who has left the presidency, and therefore this shouldn't be something that should result in a conviction for the former president.
Day one of Donald Trump's second impeachment was all about testing its constitutionality. Senators gave the trial a green signal with a 56-44 vote. But as the voting to declare the trial constitutional happened, political lines were seen getting blurred. This as 6 GOP senators sided with the Democrats to declare the vote trial constitutional, and a similar effort led by Republican Senator Rand Paul last month led to 45 out of 50 fellow Senate Republicans voting that the trial was unconstitutional. Today, one additional Republican senator voted that the trial was legal under the Constitution. Let's take a look at the 6 Republican senators who backed that argument. Bill Cassidy, Louisiana senator, blamed Trump's lawyer for their bad and lackluster performance. 2 weeks ago, he had voted in favor of an effort to dismiss the trial, but today he voted with the Democrats to move forward, which came as an unprecedented move. He went off on the Trump defense team.
Said I'd be an impartial juror. Anyone listening to those arguments, the House managers were focused, they were organized, they relied upon both precedent, the Constitution, and legal scholars. They made a compelling argument. President Trump's team were disorganized. They did everything they could but to talk about the question at hand. And when they talked about it, they kind of glided over it, almost as if they were embarrassed of their arguments. Now, if I'm an impartial juror, and one side's doing a great job, and the other side's doing a terrible job on the issue at hand, as an impartial juror, I'm going to vote for the side that did the good job.
Cassidy joined Senator Susan Collins of Maine, who had already voted to support the legality of the trial last month. The Maine centrist was the only Republican senator re-elected in 2020 in a state also won by Biden. She said that Trump had incited the January 6th riot. Now coming to Pat Toomey, the Republican Pennsylvania senator, he has said that he will not run for re-election after his term ends in 2022. He seemed keen in tabling an effort to force a vote on the constitutionality of the trial last month. He has now told several media outlets that he stands by his previous remark that Trump committed impeachable offenses. And Ben Sasse, a senator from Nebraska, handily won re-election in 2020 and is considered to be a potential contender for the 2024 Republican presidential nomination. A famous anti-Trump Republican, he has repeatedly and publicly denounced Trump's false claims of widespread electoral fraud and said that there was no basis to object to Democrat Joe Biden's November 3rd victory. Former President Donald Trump's attorney Bruce Castor called out the Republican senator for the same as well. Now coming to Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, who became the first U.S. senator for not succumbing to pressure and calling for Trump to resign after his supporters rioted at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th to disrupt the formal certification of the election by Congress. Murkowski has repeatedly broken party lines and opposed the president. Mitt Romney, a Utah senator and the 2012 Republican presidential candidate, has been a vocal critic of Trump. In 2020, Romney was the only Republican senator to vote for conviction during Trump's first impeachment trial. With Democrats united in their judgment of Donald Trump, it will be now up to the Republicans to determine whether the Senate punishes him for his role in the riot. Collectively, their individual decisions will bring into relief not just the future of the Republican Party for the next 2 years ahead of the 2022 midterm election, but also perhaps far beyond that. WION World is One is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.